This is the 60 Plus Podcast.
I'm Janet.
And I'm Joe. How are you today, Janet?
I'm pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day out. And,
It is.
And we're in the studio recording another episode of the 60 Plus Podcast.
Yay.
What are we going to talk about today, Janet?
Well, today we're going to be talking about making life changes after 60, like major changes.
Old dogs, new tricks?
I don't think we want to say it that way.
You know what I mean.
We don't want to insult anybody, especially our guest today. We have a guest, which is very exciting. I'm very excited about it, and I'm sure you are too, Joe. Yeah. And so this is BJ Magnani. Ooh, I said it right.
Pretty close.
Yeah. Maybe you should say it.
Magnani.
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 Yeah, God, it sounds like a really great Italian dish.
Right.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, she's a great Italian dish, you know
She
what
is,
I'm
yes.
saying? Yeah, so BJ's going to be talking to us about this huge transition that she made in her 60s from the head of toxicology at Tufts, I believe that's right.
Chair of toxicology.
Chair of toxicology.
No, chair of the department.
Oh, the whole department.
Right.
To amazing author who has published a whole series of books. And I think you're on your fifth. Is that right? Fourth or fifth?
Yes. Somewhere in there.
Yeah. So
It's like the fourth or fifth episode of the 60
yeah,
Podcast.
we don't know.
We lost count.
Hey, we're over 60. How are we supposed to remember these things? I don't know. So that's what we're doing today. And I think we've kind of already started because you've heard BJ's voice.
We did. Welcome, BJ.
Oh, thank you. And
yeah,
great to
thanks
be here.
for coming.
Janet and Joe. Yeah.
It's great to have you here today. And we wanted to start the conversation getting a little more background about where were you and what you did and how you sort of made this big transition.
Yeah, well, I'm now what I call on my fourth career. You know, we're living longer, we've got lots to do, and having multiple careers might be in your future. I transitioned most recently off being chair of the Department of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine at Tufts University School of Medicine and also chair of the Toxicology Committee for the College of American Pathologists. Two huge jobs running services for a major academic hospital. Why would I go to something else? Well, like I said, this is my fourth career. When I graduated college, I taught high school for about a year. I was a high school teacher and then a college teacher. And after that, I decided, gosh, science is so interesting. Why not go into science? So I became a scientist. I got a master's and a PhD in science, and I worked actually up at Harvard as a scientist. Then I thought...
You were in a lab?
In a lab,
every day?
Wow.
Working with toxins and poisons, doing all kinds of exciting things. It was fantastic. It was fun. And I loved every minute of it. And I thought, maybe you should go to medical school. That might be fun, too. So
I've never heard anyone say medical school is fun.
I could be a
else am I
scientist
doing?
and a doctor. So I went to medical school. And since I was a lab rat, basically, pathology was my thing. So I became a pathologist. And then, I did that for gosh knows how many years.
Were you a pathologist in a hospital setting?
Oh, yes, in a hospital setting.
Wow.
So very demanding role because,
amazing.
as you know, hospital laboratories have to be open 24/7, 365. So you are always on when you're running a lab. During this time, I got asked to write a fictional story for a scientific journal called Clinical Chemistry. The editor-in-chief...
I love that journal. I read it all the time.
Oh, yeah. Right. No, it is a journal. It is a worldwide journal. It is for scientists and toxicologists and chemists all over the world. And the editor-in-chief said, we don't really do a good job of teaching toxicology. How about you create a fictional character and bring it to life in the journal, poison someone, that will be your MO, and then in the next issue, you can say how you did it and you can give a tutorial on it and teach everybody about the poison.
Wow.
So we did this, and people from all over the world wrote in trying to guess how it was done. Now, I didn't write under my name. I chose the pseudonym of Lily Robinson, and she became my protagonist in all the novels that followed.
Wow,
so
what a great story.
That's how I got the start in my 60s.
Right.
So I did this writing while I was also, running the department and doing all those things. And I started working on the first novel that came out. These short stories went on for about a year or so. They were collected actually into a book. We did have a big unveiling, like who was the toxicologist, pathologist who was writing these stories. How they guessed, Janet, you'll like this. I was the one who wore stilettos just like my character. Oh yeah. You got to wear stilettos. So, I used to wear them in the lab, and people said, oh, who do we know who likes those kinds of shoes? So they did this big unveiling. It came out to be me. And anyway, from there, I decided to put together the novels, the first novel, which was The Queen of All Poisons. So I worked on this for a while, and I can remember, and you'll appreciate this story here, I had an annual review with the dean of the medical school, the CEO of the hospital, the CEO of the practice. And, it was all good. And at the end of the meeting, I said, you know what? I think I'd like to step down and write full time. Oh, no.
Wow.
You can't do that.
So when you made that decision, though, what was the moment that you said, okay, was it because of the meeting that you were having with these guys and you're like, I'm done with this? Or was there some crystallizing moment where you were like, I'm in my 60s, I'm loving this? How did that actually transpire?
I had been thinking about it because I really enjoyed the writing process. And I think having written the stories for the journal and then working on the novel really got me interested in doing it. And I thought, I've done this for such a long time. It's a lot to keep it all together.
And there's something to be said for being your own boss, too.
Absolutely. I mean, and the idea that you could be just doing it, but you have such obligation.
Right.
Sometimes it's, people are like, oh, no, you can't leave us. But you have to do something for yourself if you want to do it. Like I said earlier, fourth career, I wanted to try something else. Why not?
This is what I love about this, 60 plus. You just said it so beautifully. You can say, hey, I want to do something for myself now. I want to make those decisions that I know are going to make me happy, despite what fear there might be around making such a huge change, despite people's reactions, that you're going to really honor yourself and what it is that's important to you and what you value. And so I love this story.
No, you're absolutely right. And it isn't that I didn't love my job. I did love my job, and I really loved all the people I worked with. That was the hardest part for me, was leaving those people. But I have to say, I haven't regretted one day not making that decision.
Right.
Because now I have a whole new group of colleagues. Instead of going to scientific meetings and giving talks, I go to writers' meetings and give talks. Instead of, just having regular meetings and getting together with groups of people that were scientists, now they're all writers and authors. So it's been a lot of fun. And you're right, Joe. It's so much more where you can control your time. And even though you have deadlines, you still go at your own pace.
You don't have to show up for work at 8 o'clock in the morning and be in the lab all day. You can...
And you don't have to have your stilettos on.
Well, here's the thing.
You
still have to show up for work.
You do have to
day
show up.
Because I think that's what makes it, like a commitment. But I don't have to have my hair done or have makeup on, right? Or, I can put the stilettos on if I still want to. As I walk up to my desk at home.
So part of that transition must have been learning about the publishing industry. And aside from the writing of the book, there's the business side of it as well that you have to become fluent in.
Absolutely right. But I think like most people over 60, and hopefully most people in general, we should be lifelong learners.
I agree.
Learning
Absolutely.
something, learning new things keeps your brain alive, keeps you interested and interesting. So, yes, I had a tremendous amount to learn. It was a huge, steep learning curve, but I jumped right in. I read everything I could. You can take some online courses. You can just read about it, like I said. And then I met some wonderful people. My current publisher has taught me so much, and I just love learning the business from him. So you're right. You got to keep going.
How did you find your publisher?
Very interesting. Like everyone else, I was writing query letters and, doing a synopsis and doing all that kind of stuff. But I had a friend that I knew who had published with a couple of different publishers. And he just at the time it was recent, he had published with this new publisher from Maine. And he said, I think this guy would be a great match for you. So I sent them my collection of short stories, which was in the book. They read it. In fact, this is so funny. He called me up when I was visiting friends out in Arizona to say that they had read the short stories. They loved my work and wanted to publish the novel. I still have the phone call where he left the message first before I called back. It's still on my phone after all these years, because that moment when someone says, oh yeah, we want your work, we like your work, is really exciting.
Very validating, too.
Very validating. Absolutely.
And that's when you know you have arrived.
Right.
The transition was successful.
So that was with the first book. What was the name of the book?
The Queen of All Poisons.
So then did you feel a pressure to do a second book?
At the time that I wrote the first book, it was a story I just wanted to get out, and it stemmed, as I said, from the collection of short stories. But then I purposely left the ending kind of open-ended, and I said, okay, I know exactly where to go next. So I did the second book, and then I did the third book, and now I'm doing what I'm calling the series finale, in a sense that I want to wrap up the stories, because it's not just the story about a Boston physician who's been recruited by the U.S. government as a covert assassin, which is what she does.
Okay.
It's also a story.
A Mata Hari kind of character?
No, she's not that kind of person. She uses her brilliant mind about drugs and poisons to be able to assassinate terrorists or any bad people. Okay.
Of course, only the bad people.
Only the bad people. So that it's kind of looks like a natural death. It doesn't create a big brouhaha. Oh, the drone kill that went in, or the SEAL team that went in, and we all know about it. No, these are subtle.
And of course, this is borrowing from your knowledge base of how to actually do this, too.
Absolutely.
So do you get many people coming over to your house for dinner?
Very few, Janet. Very few. The medical
Note
examiners, the medical examiners in Boston, where I used to work, used to say to me, "We're not going to her house for dinner." Right.
So the character throughout the series into the fourth book has been loosely based on you wearing stilettos and...
I had to start somewhere.
Sure.
So, obviously I've given her characteristics that I don't have. And she also has a better clothes budget than I have, I have to say. She's able to get...
We're living vicariously through the character.
We are. You can throw yourself into these characters. But, the thing I was going to say is she's not just an assassin. She has a love life. She has this very traumatic past. And she has a relationship with her daughter that's very difficult, because she didn't realize her daughter was still alive. So there's a whole little mystery there that has to get solved through all the books.
Having made the transition from toxicology scientist to author, do you stay up on your toxicology reading? Do you read the journal that we talked about a few minutes ago just to keep up with it so you can incorporate that into your writing?
I do keep up with it. I continue to give lectures to physicians in training about toxicology and forensics, which is my field. So yes, you're absolutely right. You have to keep up with that as well. And that's what's fun. I mean, I really do love science and I love reading about it. And each of my novels is heavily steeped in science, not just toxicology, but in science in general. The latest book that I'm doing now really has a lot to do with climate change and the science behind some of that. So it's fun to write.
So you are making a little bit of a transition again, right, in terms of the genre of what you're writing. Is that correct?
Okay, so the book I just mentioned, the fourth book in the series that followed the short stories, that's all Dr. Lily Robinson.
Right.
But you're right, I am simultaneously writing another book. I wanted to stretch as a writer. So it's more of a romance. There's nobody who gets killed in this one. No one's poisoned. I know.
Darn.
I know. That's not to say you might not want to do it, but in this book, we don't do it. So it's interesting because now I'm editing both books at the same time. So in the morning, I work on the romance book. And in the afternoon, I work on the espionage book.
Okay.
It kind of keeps your brain fresh. But it is, I find it's really challenging because I have to train my mind to think differently for this book, the romance book. There are different rules. It's just different than what I'm used to writing.
And to your point, that's that lifelong learning, right? The training your brain and thinking about life in different ways. And this is all, what we want to talk about on this podcast is how we can stay fresh in our thinking and change perspectives and make those life changes that we have thought about and perhaps didn't have the energy or didn't have the knowledge or had maybe too much fear around it. I think what you've been talking about is you were able to overcome all of that and have this bold view of this is something that I want. It's something different. It's something new. And I'm going for it. I wish I could harness that, turn it into magic dust. Anybody who says, yeah, I'm about to
She knows how to
turn
make the magic dust.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So Lily Robinson sounds like someone I might see on a screen someday.
That would be fabulous.
No, really. I'm thinking of other shows that, I don't know if you're familiar with Killing Eve or even like the new Jack Ryan season. It's a series that carries through. There's a character that carries through. And there's some realism to it, but it's also fantasy at another level. I could imagine that. Talk to your publisher, see if they can option it out to
HBO.
No, it would make a great series because it's very visual. Pathologists are visual people. I mean, let's face it, we have to describe what we're seeing in front of us. And so I have a lot of description in my books. And it's so many people who've written me to say, wow, I could see this. I actually see what you're doing when you say it. So it'd be great if that would happen. I would love to see a series done. But I want to get back to something that Janet said about really coming up with a reason you want to make a change, not just for change's sake, but what's driving you? What is it that you really want to still do in your life? There are things we still want to do, and it's not the bucket list that you talked about on your first podcast. It's more than a bucket list. I think it's, like I say, I think it's a real desire to maybe do something different. It is scary to make a change because you know what you know, and you've been doing it. And by the way, that came with a salary. Selling books at my age is a little bit more challenging, if you don't have a Simon & Schuster or somebody behind you. But I don't think that should stop you. I think you have to do these things and you'll feel good about it.
Yeah.
But I think it also takes a certain type of person with a curious nature. If you don't have that curious nature, you don't advance. You just kind of can stagnate. And being curious about things is easy to do. Find something that interests you.
Right. I call it flipping the script. I just was actually talking this morning with somebody who's turning 60 in a couple of weeks, and they're bumming out about it. They're like, 30 was okay, 40 was okay, 50 was even okay, but 60, I don't know why. I feel like, going down this slippery slope. And I'm like, well, turn around and start climbing back up again because you can't just give into it. Like, oh, I'm 60, so I guess I might as well just sit in this chair for the rest of my life. That's the flipping of the script. Turning this around. And I said to him, well, I look at this as a huge opportunity because maybe you've retired. Maybe you have time that you didn't have before. Maybe your children are out of the house. Maybe you have a newfound interest that you just weren't able to pursue before. Hey, this is the time. Go for it.
You don't even have to be retired because BJ did it while she was still working in a very serious, very demanding job.
You know, we can't, not everybody's going to be BJ. But the point is that let's not be bummed out about these years. Let's really enjoy them. And I think it starts with the attitude that you go in on.
No, I agree. Do not be bummed out turning 60 or even more.
Right.
Because there is just so much ahead. And like I said, we're living longer. Mm-hmm. We've got opportunities and take advantage of them. Mm-hmm. While your health is still good too.
Right. Yeah, there is that. And that is a real challenge. But I think part of staying healthy too is lifelong learning, attitude. Energy, keeping your energy where it needs to be and staying positive.
So where can people buy the books and how can they find them by name?
Okay, so the series is the Dr. Lily Robinson series. The first book is The Queen of All Poisons. The second book is The Power of Poison. The third book is A Message in Poison. And the series finale is going to be called We'll Always Have Poison. All my books can be found in your local bookstore. You can find me on Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Under BJ Magnani.
BJ Magnani, you got it. And also, I have a terrific website. I do a poison blog every month. So you can learn about some fun poison, or maybe it's not so fun. How you use it, I am not responsible for any of that.
There's
or
a
what
big
you do with the
disclosure on the
information.
bottom
Yes,
of
a little disclosure there. But you can find out a lot more about me, the books, and just some really interesting science.
All right. Dr. BJ Magnani. You still go by doctor?
Yes.
Dr. BJ Magnani. The Queen of Poison is the first book.
Queen of All Poisons.
Queen of All Poisons. And what's the website address for the poison blog?
bjmagnani.com.
Spell Magnani.
Magnani.
Anything else, Janet?
I'm just blown away.
Yeah, right.
This has been great. I really appreciate you coming in today, and I really enjoyed the conversation and so much inspiration here for me and hopefully everybody who's listened today. So, yeah, I'm good, Joe. How about you?
I think I'm good. I'm like you.
Blown away.
So impressed, and I want to go out and do something now.
I want to go home and do some writing.
BJ, thank you so much for coming in to talk to us on the 60 Plus podcast.
Thank you.
It's been really wonderful.
Thank you, BJ. Bye.
Talk to you next time.